Yeah. It's the countdown. Countdown has occurred. So let's have a little look. Let's make sure we're live. Check it out, Dave. See if we're live. Nice. Just had confirmation. Honestly, we're gonna make a little bit of a snapshot of all these. I think it'd be quite funny, wouldn't it? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Really? Oh, okay. That is, well, you're showing up for me, but yeah. Hey, everyone, if you've, it's Andy here. If you just dropped in, just let us know if you can see Dave. Can you see Dave? Miko, Tamarin, Sinead, can you, oh, no video for Dave. Dave, you're not here. I will hide you. I'm going to bring you back. 2, 1. Okay, Dave, I can't see you.
Okay, apparently I'm not here, so.
Nice. See, Dave, you're better at this when you're on your own, mate. That's what it is.
Yeah. Right, you're going to have to filibuster for a second for me, Andy.
That's right. Why don't you come and just join us in here, Dave?
Yeah, that's the only way.
Join us in here. Hey, guys, sorry about this. We're just, I will zoom out. Now, Dave, come and join us. Come and join us in here, eh? Oh, he's back. Let's have a look. That's weird, though, because you're not showing on my screen here. Weird. Come in, mate. Come in. Right, let's just mute that. Well, we started well today. But hey, everyone, great to see everyone on. I think we're going to get some form of Yeti coming in very soon. Dave? He's arrived all the way from Nepal.
There we go.
How are you doing? Finally, wow, this is weird.
Yeah,
that together.
That was a bit of a mad scramble. Yeah, that was really weird.
That's all right. Well, hey everyone, Andy and Dave.
Hey everyone,
in the podcast studio. It feels a while since.
Yeah, this is good. We're not normally in the same place at the same time.
I know, it's weird, Dave. We're too close.
Yeah, exactly.
No, everyone. Yeah, great to be back. I know I left you in the more than massively capable hands of Dave, and I heard you actually got to meet Fee last week as well. So yeah, yes. Well done. I did see a little bit. I was on holiday last week, so we're back today. Apologies for the tech issues to start off. Yeah, apparently we couldn't see Dave, but now we can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and although it doesn't look like it, I am sort of like kind of an arm's length away. So
it's too late for that now.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
No worries. Well, look. Yeah. So today, it's been a bit of interesting over the last week. I was away. I was actually in Greece, but I did hear that you had some stormy weather over here, and it got us thinking a little bit about weather and what it's like on our trips. Everest Base Camp, Kili, Machu Picchu, because we do get some questions around, what's the temperature like if you go in March, what's the weather like, during the day, during the evenings, and the same, on all the other trips. We thought, well, I know we've talked briefly on it over the, over all the lives that we've done now. I think this is like a 21st live, which is nuts.
Wow, is it that many?
In a row. So yes, which is awesome. And yeah, we thought, why don't we talk on about it? So yeah, we're going to start off talking about that. As always, we always get, I'm sure Dave will talk about equipment because we always go on to that.
Yeah.
And any questions, do post them in the comments because our social Yeti Lauren is writing down those and we'll be sending them our way. But right, Dave, where should we start with regards to weather and
the question we got asked the other day was, what's the difference between trekking in the spring and trekking in the autumn?
Yeah.
Specifically about going to Nepal, the Everest region, Everest Base Camp. And it's quite interesting because I've been at both times, and Andy's been at 3 different times a year, but we'll touch on that in a minute. The main 2 is sort of March, April, May, September, October, November. And I think the biggest difference between the 2, the temperature is not that different. The temperature is relatively mild during the day. It's going to be cold in the morning and cold in the nights. Certainly below 0 in the nights as you get to a higher altitude.
Yeah,
I think the biggest difference, though, is more in line of what you see in the overall field, because in March, April, and May, there's summer in Everest, which draws huge numbers of people. So the trail will be busier. But it's quite an exciting form of busy because you are meeting people that are looking to summit, the roof of the world. So you get to chat with the Sherpas, chat with the guides, chat with, the clients. And you will, when you arrive at base camp, there's almost 2 base camps then. So there's Trekkers base camp, which is a little bit further away from the edge of the icefall. And then right up to the edge of the icefall, then you've got Climbers base camp, which is full of tents and stuff. The best thing that happened when we were there was that we got brought like hot tea and coffee for the
first. Back in April, wasn't it?
Back in April,
yeah. Well, April last year.
Yeah, April 2019. And it was amazing because we were just there, and our guide, Bibek, who's actually summited, went over, spoke to some team members that he knew over there. And the next thing you know, there was like hot coffee and tea and biscuits at base camp. It was amazing. One of the other things I think that's different in the spring is all if you're into your photography, and particularly like pretty images and stuff, all the flowers and stuff, the cherry blossom on the trees and stuff like that.
It was the first time we saw that, wasn't it? It was lots of the flora was out. It was pretty awesome, especially as well if you're into nighttime photography. It's brilliant. But it's I know you touched on it there, what's the difference between spring and sort of another time of year. And I think it's very similar at certain times of the year. So you've got like March, April, May. They are very similar. I'd say the early March, it does get down below 0. Sometimes, especially if you're in the shadows of the mountain, it can be quite cold. And then you might get some precipitation. So if you're higher up and it's obviously less than 0, you're going to get some snow. So we always tend to see that trips sort of beginning of March-ish will get some snow. Especially if you maybe go over some of the high passes. So something to sort of think about, especially if you're going over like Chola, Kongmala, Renjola, even if you're climbing some of the peaks like Island Peak, you might get some snow up there. So it does make the conditions a little bit tougher. Then as you go into sort of April and May, it does start to get warmer as you move in towards the summer months. So if you do go in sort of, I'd say mid to late May, it can be quite warm. I mean, during the day, doesn't matter what time of year you go, you're going to be in shorts and t-shirt most of the time. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, especially in the lower altitude. So probably at least up to sort of Tengboche, it's possible to get like sunburn during the day. I know the first time I ever went there was in October. And I got sunburn on my way up to Namche because
it's mad.
It's crazy. But the other thing that we do want to, I kind of want to highlight is that the weather in the Himalaya is changeable.
Absolutely.
Although like I've said to people before, I think, if you go in October, it'll be quite nice. You'll have clear days and stuff like that. And that's by and large true. But I was there last time in October and it was the coldest I've ever had it. But then the warmest I've ever had it was also in October on another trip. So it is constantly changing up there. I think perhaps climate change has got a little something to do with it. But if you are lucky and you get the snowfall, wow, like you can get some
amazing.
Beautiful,
isn't it?
Yeah, so
amazing.
April was the prettiest I've ever seen the Khumbu. I mean, I've walked through those rhododendron forests quite a lot of time, but I've never seen all the cherry blossoms on the trees and stuff. And I'm not even one that takes a lot of pictures, but even I had to get the phone out and take a couple of pictures.
Some questions coming through here, actually. I think Monique asked about Peru. I mean, I know we obviously focus a lot on Nepal, and now Kili as well, and Machu Picchu. So in September, you're kind of looking at it does kind of change. You've got in September, you're looking at maybe anything from 15 to 25 degrees. You won't really see much snowfall around September, to be honest, even though it's southern hemisphere. You might do sort of higher up, maybe on the high pass. It might be rare occasion, but actually at Machu Picchu, you're not going to get too much snow there, just because of where you are. But as you're going through the valley, especially around the Salcante area, you'll be able to see, you see the snow line is quite high, so you can kind of gauge it then, what it's like up there. Especially Mount Salcante, which is like the big mountain that you'll see. It's almost the equivalent of if you've been on Everest Base Camp and you're trekking through the Khumbu region. Ama Dablam is always there. It's very much like that with Mount Salcante as well. So that is there, and it'll always be there when you're hiking through the valley. So I hope that answers your question, Monique.
I had an interesting question from Ali, which is how does the weather and the time of year impact your packing list?
That's a great question. Where is Ali? I can't see on here.
I'm getting them
from,
here
she is. Ali.
Yeah, I'm getting them from beamed straight to me.
Very good. Via the social Yeti.
Via the social Yeti, yeah. So I always go by the social Yetis.
Well, I happen to bring a question up. Nice.
Yeah, nice. To be honest, by and large, it's going to remain the same.
Yeah.
The one thing you want to do is if you're going towards because if you're going in the spring, you come in off the back of winter. And if you're going in the autumn, you're coming off the back of the monsoon.
Yeah.
So early in the season, in spring, it can be actually colder, but it's going to be getting slightly warmer the closer you get to sort of the end of May. But it is possible, that you'll have some snowfall.
Yeah.
Then in September, October, November, it's going to gradually get colder the closer you get to November. So I think if you go in, early in the season, in the spring, perhaps you want to pack some thermals and stuff like that if you feel the cold. And if you go in later in the season, in the autumn, again, pack some thermals and stuff like that. But the packing list that we've put together, they're sort of all encompassing, so what we always say is you need to pack for 4 seasons, because one thing I can guarantee is you're going to see the sun, you're going to see snow, you're going to see the rain, it's going to be cold, wind, everything, sometimes all within an hour. So I think, if you go by the packing list, you're not going to go far wrong. Yeah,
nice. Monique, I must have misread your question. Sorry. You put about April. So sorry about that regarding Machu Picchu. Yeah. With it's not too dissimilar. You can get down sort of 10 degrees around April time, especially obviously a little bit colder during the night. So again, you won't see much snow up there. I'd say out of all the treks that we do, it's probably the greenest.
Yeah.
Because you're not a million miles away from the Amazon. And there's a lot of forest around there. Although you've got the mountainous peaks behind around you, near Machu Picchu is very green.
Yeah.
So there's not much snow really on the color any route you go really. There are, you're in the Peruvian Andes. There's lots of that which there are snow. We've been looking at some future trips that we're trying to put together over the next couple of years. Somewhere that's a bit higher, a bit different. There's a really cool place actually called the Ausangate area. It's something we're looking at. So if you're looking for snow in Peru, that might be one for you. But so sorry about that. I don't know why I put September. It might have been someone else talking or messaging, but I hope that answers your question a little bit, Monique.
Yeah. So Lucy Barrett has asked, make Tupdal in January, 10th variation.
It's cold.
So so January would be considered a winter ascent of Tupdal. Essentially, Tupdal can be like, because you're in Morocco, in the summer it can be like really hot, so it can be like really warm trip. It's always going to be cold when you go to the summit, because you'll leave sort of, in the dark and stuff like that. So it's always going to be cold. Anytime you get to around 4,000 meters and the sun's not out, you're going to be feeling it. In January, it's even more so. So you may need some crampons and things like that to tackle the terrain. If it's if it's particularly cold, it's going to be ice on the rocks and things. So you will need crampons and things like that. It's not technical climbing; it's just for grip. And we can provide those for you. And they're widely available in Marrakesh and stuff like that. But the guides will be fully prepared for the conditions in January. But it's going to be a chilly one. It's going to be a chilly one in January. Yeah,
it's quite different. It's weird because you go to Morocco, you think it should be boiling, but literally an hour and a half out of Marrakesh, and you get to. Can't believe I forgot the Imla. That's it.
Imla.
Imla. And you get to Imla, the temperature drops, and you're around about sort of 1,400 meters up. But then as you start to get higher, it's clear then, that especially around January time. I was actually in Morocco in February, just for Kili. And it is pretty cold up there. It's nice actually, because it's so hot in the city, but then once you go to the mountains, it's lovely. But as Dave said, it's proper winter conditions there. But with regards to crampons, ice axe, we do. You don't have to have technical skills, but it's like anything, any experience you do have on snow, whether it be just hiking in your local hill in winter, maybe a bit of snow. If you've got crampon use, great. It all helps. Hope that answers your question, Lucy.
Yeah, the other, you mentioned temperature differentials. I know February we went to Kilimanjaro. It was crazy. Like in Moshi, it was 38 degrees. and we went from within 24 hours, the summit of Kili, which was, I don't know what it was, -10 at least.
It was about with the wind,
with the, the ice in the bottle was frozen solid, and it stayed frozen all the way down during the walk, all the way back to Barafu camp. And then, but within 24 hours, I was back in Moshi, and it was 38 degrees again. It was great. I know we went there in July, which is quite warm in July, and we went to like the swimming in the natural.
Yeah, that was really nice. It was natural hot springs, although it was freezing. But it was quite nice.
They call it a hot spring. I would call it a natural spring.
Yeah, it's not hot.
There was no hot, but it was fine. Paul Dewhurst has asked an interesting question. So, and I posted a little bit about this on our social media over the last at the end of last week.
Okay.
Do you have to carry your trash off Everest? Initially I was going to say, well, you don't have to, Paul, but actually I'm going to say, yeah, you do. So
we do encourage it.
Yeah, we do encourage it, and part of being involved with EverTrek and being on an EverTrek trip is that we do like to look after the land in which we're actually exploring and walking and adventuring.
Yeah.
So one of the big things for us is one, limiting the amount of one-use plastics and things that we bring or use on the mountain. So we use water filters and stuff like that, water purifying filters, to prevent the use of bottled water.
Yeah.
And any trash and things like that, say if you buy like a tube of Pringles or something like that, normally in the villages, there will be places where you can deposit that waste and it'll then be brought back down. But if you want to help as well and bring some of that, rubbish back down with you, you can get rid of it in Lukla then, and it'll be transported off the mountain. One interesting thing that happens all over the Khumbu, but it's sort of centralized in Namche, is the Sagarmatha Next Carry Me Back campaign.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
We love
I know
this.
you did a little post about it. It's brilliant.
It's brilliant. So what they do is they collect all the plastic waste from the mountain, and it gets processed into these little sort of silver bags with clips on them. They weigh next to nothing, and they ask you just to carry at least one back, and you just clip it to your bag. You'll see people looking like giant misshapen spacemen because they've carried like about 20 of them.
Brilliant.
But I would say, wherever you go, whether that be even in Everest or whether it be on Penavan or something like that, if you see a crisp packet or something, try and pick it up. Just because it makes it far more pleasant for everybody, and it'll stay like that for a lot longer.
Yeah, and I know Monique's put an important point there. I know you said it then about it doesn't matter where you are. Unfortunately, guys, I think you do get your knobheads who do like to throw their rubbish away, and luckily we don't get any on EverTrek trips, because I kind of feel where even us just talking about this and the things we like to do and promote, and almost we want to encourage keeping the area clean. It's a very clean area. I mean, I know Everest gets a lot of bad press just because of the some of the trash they say that's on Everest regarding the mountain itself, not necessarily base camp. It's very clean.
Yeah,
very clean. I've seen a lot worse, especially in the UK, unfortunately. But we can do our best. We can bring what we can down. Obviously we can't carry it all, but if you can do your bit, it's good karma, and do something for the area.
Exactly.
Lots of times about education. That's why Sagarmatha Next is great, because they're trying to encourage the local community. I mean, unfortunately, it does happen. It's in many parts of the world. Sometimes it's the actual locals, unfortunately, who, with regards to their education about using rubbish, they do just throw it. As they've been educated to sort of encourage them to actually recycle it. That's why Sagarmatha Next is amazing, because they're actually designing art using rubbish. So they're basically saying, look, you can find another use for that. Don't just throw it away. So it's really good. It's like anywhere in the world. But Molly, you make a really good point there. It's about anywhere, whether you go in Kili, any of our trips. We always encourage people to, bring it down with you, especially if you're having a wildie, as you call it, Dave.
Wildie,
bag your tissues, get them down, sort of thing.
I think that it's a fact that wherever you find humans, you're going to find evidence of humans. So it's not completely free of any humanity and our waste, but Everest Base Camp, and I've seen at least the evidence that I've seen with my own eyes is that it's remarkably clean. The northern side I know had a little bit of a different issue. We're on the south side in Nepal. The northern side in China, Tibet, you can drive to their base camp, So I think it attracts a slightly different type of traveler, you know, someone that's just on a day trip perhaps. And I think maybe, you know, then it's easier to, you know, throw stuff. But yeah, agree with everything. Yeah.
So I'm just reading some of the comments from Ramona here, and yeah, great recommendation, Ramona. I've never done that before. There's a Ziploc bag for your Wii.
Oh, do you know,
that's different. Yeah.
Do you know what they do? You can buy these little bags and they've got crystals in them.
Okay.
And when you pee in them, it just solidifies into like a gel, so it won't leak or anything like that. Then you just zip it up and you get rid of it. I don't know about the sort of sustainability side of it, but I know it, you know.
Okay.
I don't want Wii in my bag.
We'll have to check that out. I've got a good question here actually from, where was it? Here we go. Haley. Hey Haley. Thanks for joining us again. I know you're on a lot of our lives. When is the wet monsoon season in Nepal? So they're just actually coming out of it. It's normally it's June, July, and August. So they get a lot of rain in that area of the world. So it's been challenging during the monsoon season. I know Nepal has had lockdowns, restrictions on them. They haven't been able to go very far anywhere in the country. But yeah, so that's monsoon season. We don't really run trips during that time. Obvious reasons. It's a bit too wet. It's hard.
Yeah.
Lukla is a nightmare to get to in monsoon. When you know, you imagine you've got several days of bad weather. You just, it's not good running trips like that. So we don't do it.
I'd recommend Wales for that, actually. If you wanted to know what it was like to trek in the monsoon season, Wales is perfect for that. Yeah. We're actually semi-aquatic. Yeah, also, you know, one of the main things you want to do when you go there is see the mountains and see Everest. Where there's rain, there's clouds. Where there's clouds, there's no view. So yeah, we don't recommend. Leah has said in Australia you're labelled as a tosser if you litter.
I think that's the same here, right?
As in, it's very similar. Yeah, very similar. Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it, Leah. Love it.
Oh, Lucy Barrett, can you get a hold of the mug? We did.
Yes.
When the store's up and running, I think
that is actually quite. I think we brought that up on screen there. Can we get a hold of your? Doesn't say mug.
It definitely says mug though. Look.
I know it does. I know, but here we go. This technology today is really different.
I think they've done an update, and it's all a bit different.
Anyway, to answer your question, I don't know if you've been watching a lot of the lives. We've been promising about our merchandise store. Still being worked on. I know. We want it finished as soon as possible. Our tech team, which we've handed off to the company, is still working on it. And then you will be able to get these. Yes, you can order them there. They're going to be quite cheap actually, but they're great. Any pictures when you are able to actually order these, Lucy, we'll be communicating that with everyone and saying it's live. Go and get your mugs and all the other stuff we'll be putting on there, caps and different things.
Rob Jones has actually corrected me there and said that Wales was lovely this weekend, and you're absolutely right there, Rob. I just wouldn't want people to rely on that.
Well done, Rob.
Because I've lived in Wales pretty much all my life. And have we ever gone to Brecon and it's not rained on us? Like every single time.
One day
we did it.
Although it's very rare. But Rob, I saw some of your pictures, mate. It looked like an awesome weekend. Rob's always on it. He's always out. He's loving the training. But great to see some questions. I'm just going. I'm just scrolling through these questions.
Paul Dewis has said he didn't mean just tossing trash, but using bins in towns and stuff.
Good point, Paul.
Generally speaking, you know, if where there's a bin provided, it'll be provided by the lodge, or you might even find one on the trail, particularly in the lower altitude, sort of up to Tengboche, you might. And I think they're fine to use because they do cleanups. Yeah, and they will be bringing it all down. If you have something that you need to get rid of, then that's fine. The only thing I say is that, you know, if you can sort of, every tiny little bit helps. You know, if each trekker that went to Everest Base Camp brought back one bottle with them, the problem wouldn't exist, you know, over the course of a year. So I always try and bring something back with me. But obviously, you know, you're not there to clean up the Khumbu. You're just there to sort of look after yourself and do your bit, you know. So that's what we say. Yeah. But, as long as you're not throwing it on the ground and leaving it, that's fine.
Exactly. Sorry, Shane. Shane, nice to see you on here as well. Shane Ryan, I'll bring up your question, which you asked about our lives being in the evenings. Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I know you asked it when you came on. Although good to see you on, if you're asking that question. We have thought about this, you know, because we understand, obviously, we started these during lockdown when, you know, a lot of the country, I know, you know, if any of you are frontline workers, you know, or still worked through lockdown, very similar. So, but I know we started these during lockdown. We have seen Obviously, a little decrease in people attending because, we understand people are back to work, especially, kids go back to school.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things, a priority. So, yeah, we are thinking about that. At the moment, because we, the way we work, Monday to Thursday, we do these on a Tuesday, but you can catch them on a replay, and we also put them on YouTube and podcast as well. So if you do miss them, you can watch the replay. Obviously, we understand that, we want to try and be there all the time for you guys. Obviously in the evenings, we'll try and maybe do the odd one in the evenings, but we can't promise anything. Maybe we'll do the sort of odd one, but yeah, we'll have to have a look regarding going forward. But we'll try our best with that. That's why we put them on the replay, just so if you do miss them, Shane, you can catch them. And if you want any questions asked, drop us an email, send us a Facebook message, and then we can answer them on the live. And then when you do get time, then obviously I know it's different engaging live to watching the replay. But if you want questions answered, we can get them answered for you, mate. Okay.
Yeah.
But good point, and thanks for bringing it up. Like I said, we want to be as available as we can, but we do have lives as well. But we want to obviously be here when we can.
So Paula's asked an interesting question.
Yes.
So she's going to Kili in September.
Okay.
And I just saw it on there. So I think you just scrolled past it because it wasn't at the bottom.
Ooh, okay.
Anyway, I'm gonna bring it. So Paula's asked, what's the weather going to be like in Kili on September? So that's a relatively mild time of year to go. So it's not going to be extreme temperature either way, although it can get very hot in the lower altitude.
Yes.
I think on the summit in September, the summit temperature is always going to be cold. Whether we're talking a difference of like degrees here is, as long as you're dressed right and you're prepared right for it, you're not really going to feel the difference between sort of like 7 degrees and 9 degrees, But I think, it's always going to be freezing on the summit. Your water's going to perhaps freeze, but the guides do carry flasks of hot water as well. And it's about making sure you're well hydrated at the start. But I think, it's relatively mild in September. It's one of those where it's going to be cold in the morning and it's going to be cold in the evening. It's probably going to go below zero in the higher altitudes at night. But other than that, it's going to be relatively mild during the day, perhaps shorts and t-shirt for most of it as well. Do you know what? I feel like I need a graphic sort of by here. And I'm going to be like, it's going to be relatively mild, during the day with a warm current coming through you.
Michael Fish. As I can imagine you do.
Michael Fish. Is he the one that fell in the water?
Because he's called a fish?
No. I'm sure there was a guy who
maybe did.
No, it was like a morning TV, and he used to jump from there was like a map of Britain, and he used to do the weather.
Wow, he fell in the water.
Yeah, it was a foam board, and I'm pretty sure he jumped from Ireland to the mainland or vice versa and fell in.
Yeah. It's I like this one from Paul Dewhurst. Asked about, is there a protocol for number twos? Yes, it's a good shout actually. We don't tell people what to do because it is down to you. But normally there's places to go in terms of toilets, especially on Everest Base Camp or the Everest region, Nepal. Sometimes you might be, say you're on base camp day and you just got to go. You can bury it, depending on where you are. If you're on Kili, Dave, I know you had to go on Kili, so you're probably the best one to explain.
Yeah, a little cheeky wild.
But it's obviously we encourage not to leave anything on the mountain, but if you've got to go, you've got to go sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we're not, I suppose maybe we're not aiming for sort of ultimate perfection here. We're just talking about doing our bit.
Yes.
So if you do need to go and have a wildie, your stomach rumbles and you've got to go then and there's nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
No one's asking you to bag up all your
excrement.
Yeah.
Could have called it lots of things.
No one's asking you to and carry that with you for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
But if you do have a Ziploc bag and you can put the tissues and stuff in there, that's fine.
Yeah, that's the stuff that doesn't degrade as much as your poo.
Yeah.
So if you can keep that stuff.
Well, we always get onto it. Somehow, we always get onto the poo.
It's an important question. Doesn't matter what time, what the weather is like, people still need to poo.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah. So Leah has asked a question.
Okay.
What's the best thing to use for a poo? No, she hasn't.
I was thinking I couldn't see that one.
Yeah. What do you use for waterproofing? Not just yourself, but your backpack. Just a waterproof cover.
I'll bring that in, yeah.
So they normally come with a rucksack, or you can buy them from almost any outdoor shop.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you just that's all I'll use to waterproof my rucksack.
Like an Osprey.
Yeah, just like the Osprey, you'll see like the
bag covers,
the canvas cover thing that goes over the top of the bag, and
yeah,
normally there's a drawstring or a clip that goes around the bag so it stays in place. That's all I'll use for the bag. With regards to my jacket, my trousers, and my boots,
yeah,
I will, if I've been out in them in the rain, reproof them, or rather I should reproof them. I probably don't do it every time they get wet, but yeah, so I'll use Nick Wax reproofing stuff for that. And for the boots, I've used this, I think it was Scarpa did their own one, or was it Granger's? I'm not sure. What's the one we use for the boots?
Maindel,
obviously. Maindel, yeah.
They got their own wax.
Yeah, they got their own wax
really
and stuff that you should put on there that'll help keep your boots healthy for longer.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, there's this instant stuff you can just spray on there. But the best thing to do is, like, if you've been out in the rain all day and you've got your kit wet, stick it in the washing machine, put it in with some of the waterproof reproofing stuff, and you do notice a difference. What you want to see on your jacket in the rain is, you don't want to see it like a wet tissue. You want to see little beads of water just sat on the jacket. That means that it's not penetrating. And after you've reproofed it and you like spray it with a hose if you wanted to, you would see lots of little beads all over it, which means it's not getting through. So
yeah, nice. Tech Wash is the one.
Tech Wash, Tech Wash.
Yeah, they're the ones I've used, and I highly recommend them. If you want your jacket to last, use that quite regularly, because especially if you're in Wales, Scotland, England, when you go out, you do get dirty, you get messy, and your jacket's always the last one to get looked after, because you chuck your trousers, your socks, your pants, knickers, everything in the in the washing machine, but your jacket just gets hung up waiting to dry. So it's good to get it washed. It will last longer too.
Bernice Carter waves to all the Yetis, and I've remembered who Bernice is. That's mum of that's mum of Yetis.
I can see her waving now.
Yeah.
Brilliant, guys. I know there was a couple more questions. If you do have any questions, do fire them away, because I know we've been going for half hour already. Let's have a little look. Here we go. Danny, thanks for joining us. What the weather be like start of March for Kili? Good question. Yeah, March is very similar. It's
pretty much seen as fair by sea.
Yeah, it's a fine line, mine, because for some reason in March, I think it's maybe the third week. Apparently, I mean, this is, I've not trekked in March. We actually got to the summit of Kili on the 29th of Feb.
Yeah.
But then we were speaking to the guides and the people there, because we haven't run any trips in March yet. But just from speaking to them, they do say that the latter part of March is quite wet for some reason. They do tend to historically get a lot of wet weather at the end. The beginning's fine. That's why you look at our dates over the next few years. If we're running those sort of trips, they tend to be around about that time. So yeah, we didn't want to obviously run them in the wettest time. To be honest with Kili, you can go year round. It's that kind of place. It's very different to Nepal, where you get defined seasons. You get all four in the same day. You get wet on the slower slopes, warm on the plateau, and then freezing at the summit. Yeah. It really does, so that's why Kili's such a draw for a lot of people, because you can go anytime. Obviously, we have dates for group trips.
Yeah.
In March, in the beginning of March. So just to answer your question, it's really good. You're talking during the day as you start off, you'd be about 20 degrees until you get to about 3,500 meters. Then the temperature starts to drop a little bit. As you get to Shira 1, Shira 2, then you get to what we call Barranco Wall. It starts to get a bit cooler then as you get closer to Kibo, which is the summit. Where Uhuru Peak and Kilimanjaro, as you know it. Freedom Peak, that's what it's called. Yeah, Freedom Peak. Yeah. And then summit night is when it gets really nippy. Always, doesn't matter what time of year you go. So, I hope that sort of answers your question a little bit.
So, Alexandra's asked
yes,
a good question. Does the weather have an impact on the difficulty of the trip?
Good question, Ali.
Thinking altitude sickness, physical difficulty, etc. Okay. It doesn't really. I mean, not really, and yes, it's one of those things where, with regards to altitude sickness, so things that can affect altitude sickness are like overexerting yourself.
Yeah.
And if you already have an existing problem and you're not sort of firing on all cylinders, then naturally your body's going to be slightly weaker and less resistant to the changes that your body's going to be going through. So if you kind of get drenched and you're not covering your chest, and yes, it can potentially tire you out more.
Yeah.
But I would say overall on the trips that we do, no, because the seasons in which we go trekking, they exist for a reason, and that's because the temperature is perfect, or as perfect as we can get for trekking. So if you do get a day where you're drenched in rain and stuff like that, it's not going to be day after day after day after day. And that's what would have to happen in order for you to get sort of so physically drained that the altitude would start to play its hand. So no, I think the worst that I've ever had it was on the way back on the very last day, wasn't it, Namche to Lukla.
That was wet.
And we caught a bit of the tail end of the monsoon. And got absolutely drenched. Like I've not even thought was possible. But luckily it was on the last day.
I think you're right there, Ali. It's I have to, like, the way I think about it, whatever the weather is, it doesn't really affect altitude for me. Just it's more the physical condition of yourself. And how you look after yourself. Yeah, if it's snowing, and your legs get tired, that will affect the way you operate from a physical perspective. But the altitude is always there. Doesn't matter if you're awake. It doesn't matter if you're sleeping. It's always there. That sounds scary, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it's always watching you.
It's always watching you.
Altitude is
unlimited altitude is there, guys.
Altitude is the monster under the bed.
But
that's too dark.
But it's a beautiful monster when you're there.
I also, the one thing, I am a big believer in there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So when we say prepare for all 4 seasons, that means that if it does rain, you can just throw on your waterproofs and be fine. If it is super hot, you want to shed some layers and use sunscreen. And if it's cold, you can put on your down jacket. So those things, as long as you're packed correctly, then the weather shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, I think it's Shane as well. He makes a good point. He's like, who's that? Who's the pretty one in the middle? Who's in the middle?
This is
the EverTrek.
Yeah, this is our old friend.
About Dave.
Our old friend.
I know he's been to a few exhibitions with us, isn't he? He's been around a bit. He sits in the office and looks after the place while we're away.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, of all the time we've had him, a few years, he hasn't got a name.
He's never been
Betty the Yeti's got a name.
I think it's because he's just the Yeti.
He is. I think he's just the Yeti. Is that his name?
Yeah. So Gavin has asked an interesting question.
Okay.
How cold is it normally for the morning climb of Kalapatar? You're guessing it doesn't take too long to get warm.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for all he asked.
I love what he said there. He's I'm glad we're more entertaining than listening to your boss, Gav. So good question. Kili is because we always do it.
Kalapatar.
Sorry, Kalapatar. Thanks, Dave. Kalapatar is always cold, and we tend to do it in sunrise, depending on obviously how the group are doing, time. We always make a judgment call, but most of the time we do it for sunrise, which means you're getting up 2 hours before, in the dark. So you're hiking for 2 hours. It's always cold. You're talking sometimes -15. Even to the point where if you're taking water, it will freeze. So sometimes we get the guides to carry sort of hot water in the flask, just if it gets a bit cold. You can get some resistance here. You want to just put some hot water down it. But yeah, so it's always cold. So yeah, you're right. When you start walking, within 10 minutes you'll be delayering, like always.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's one of those. But we always say you will start off in like your down jacket, and 10 minutes in you'll take that off, and then you'll probably stop for a rest, and you get cold again. You'll be putting it back on. So it's one of those. As long as you have it with you, when you get to the top, then and you see the sun rising, hitting Everest, is no better view in the world.
So I went up on sunset in 2016, and that was like the opposite. You go up wearing your normal stuff.
Yeah.
Remember that where you're leaving from is Gorakshep.
Yeah.
And it's not the warmest place anyway. It can be because if the sun's right above you, but Gorakshep is always pretty much kind of cool.
Yeah.
So I went up sort of normally, and as I came down in the dark, it was getting cold. But the majority of the time we go in the morning, purely because I went up if the sun set, only because it was only me and one other, and we were quite quick getting to base camp and back.
Yeah.
So we had loads of free time in the evening, so that's what we did. But most of the time, if you're in like a larger group of say 10 people, 10, 12 people, you're going to be slightly slower moving. So by the time you get back, there's no time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, good question though, Gav. Sorry, I think James asked, what is a hotel like in Morocco? Yeah, it's really nice. It's more of they call them a riad over there. So it's very traditional building. So it's, it's not the classic hotel that you see in the Western world. It's very Moroccan, if I could put it that way. But yeah, it depends on if you're staying there, going on the 8 days or the 4 day. If you go in to do Roof of the North trip with us, and you go in there for the 4 days, you won't really see much of Morocco. But if you do the 8 days, you get 2 nights in Marrakesh. Sorry. Whereas the actual places we use on the mountain, really nice. Imlil, which is where you go for the first day or night, depending on if you're doing the 4 or 8 day itinerary. You'll be staying just out of there, and it's it's a really nice place. It's very, very Moroccan. It's hard to explain it, but they're just it's like something out of Indiana Jones. I always go there, and it's just the landscape. It's a proper adventure, just where it is, and because you're with the Berber people as well. So the food's fantastic. Food's amazing. If you're into your food. What other questions, Dave? Got any more, mate? That you can spot. Gav's on it again, and Ramona's always on here. Ramona, always love seeing Ramona on here. Ali made a good point actually about with regards to the water and it expanded. Yeah, you want to limit the amount of explosions you have, water explosions on any of the trips. So yeah, you've got to be careful with regards to water expanding when it's frozen. I've never heard of that happening though.
It doesn't really, to the extent where I mean, only fizzy stuff really will do that to the extent where it'll actually burst a can or something. But what your bladder and your water bottles, if it freezes in there, it won't crack the bottle or anything like that. Not unless you really mega overfilled it. But actually, the biggest explosion I ever had was a packet of crisps. So
I was wondering where you were going with that.
Yeah. So the thing is that when you go up higher in altitude, because of the pressure differential, bags of crisps are like on a plane. They start to expand.
Yeah, that's right. The pressure.
Well, I had a pack in my rucksack that I left there since Kathmandu, and then I think it was on the way to Lobouché, and I stopped on Memorial Hill just at the top, and I just sort of leant back against the ground, like flopped back, and it was a boom. I was like, "What was that?" Yeah. And then I opened it up, and it was just like "What's-its" everywhere.
What's it? Some good questions actually. I think was it Miko answered about the online shop? Yeah, Miko. Great to see you on the live again, mate. I know you're on most weeks. I know you're looking forward to your future trip. Yeah, I mean, if I got to be honest, if it was all we were working on, we'd have it done by now. Yeah. But unfortunately, we've it's been a bit going on over the last sort of couple of months, really. Obviously, with the seasons, the rescheduling and things with regards to the trips, everything that's happening, it's had to take priority. So yeah, it's one of those. I'd say it's about 90% done. With our system team, it's never we don't want to just throw it out there, because it'll cause a lot of issues. So yeah, when it is done, mate, we'll give you a nod. Yeah. I know that you've asked a couple of times over the last few weeks, and we want to get it out as soon as we can as well. So yeah, Miko, we'll definitely give you a shout about that, mate.
So Christopher's asked as well, are any of the trips more family friendly?
Oh yeah.
I think it depends on the family, but by and large, our trips are, anybody who has has the motivation and the desire to do one of our trips, is fine. Like the atmosphere on the trails, whether you go into Kili or EBC or Toubkal, is always really friendly and inclusive, and everyone's having a good time. You will see families there, with mum, dad, 2 kids on their way to Everest Base Camp. So yeah, it all depends on the family and whether that's the type of activity you enjoy, because I wouldn't want to be dragging kids up to, the summit of Kilimanjaro who really didn't want to do it.
Yeah. So it depends on the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think the thing is with it as well, it's about maybe a little bit more thought into the type of adventure. If the kids are quite young, I perhaps wouldn't be taking them to the summit of Kili right away, but you can certainly start them off, Machu Picchu, a shorter trip to Toubkal, something like that. And yeah, so I think, if it's a family adventure that you want to go on, why not?
I think you're right there, Dave, with regards to, instead of going straight for the jugular, going straight for the big one, maybe give Toubkal a go, with regards to the trips. I mean, we've always been open to, and we've had previous customers who are, younger than 18. We had a guy called Alan who went to Everest Base Camp, and he had 3 of his sons who went with him. Some of them, I think the oldest was 21. He had a couple of younger sons, and they loved it. But as Dave said, it depends on the kids, and there's not a lot of shouting and swearing on our trips. The people we get on our trips are kind of, there's a good energy. On it's the kind of industry that you like. I don't know if you're going on maybe a skiing holiday or maybe a scuba diving holiday or something. There's always a certain type of person. I tend to see that. I think when you're on the mountains, generally, obviously, I know on a busy day on Snowdonia you get a lot of mixed, in terms of people up there, but generally there's nice people on the trails, especially if you go in at, say, Kili or Everest Base Camp or Toubkal, because people have chosen to be there and to take on these challenges, and those type of individuals tend to be, quite nice. Obviously it's not a perfect world. You do get the odd idiot, but generally, they're family friendly. I mean, if you're looking to bring any kids and things like that, just give us a shout. We always do it on a case by case basis, because it depends on your family. We hate to sort of draw a line and say you're not allowed, because we'd rather say we don't want to say no. We'd rather say, yeah, sure, let's work it out and see what we can do.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's the kind of our approach, Chris. So yeah, give us a shout, mate, and drop us an email, info@evertrek.co.uk, and we can have a chat about it. But Mick's doing Triff and North Ridge this morning. Love it, Mick. I hope you had a good one. He's always out, Mick. Fair dues. You are hardcore. Great stuff.
Island Peak, he's got to get that tree.
Yeah, he is exactly. Can't wait.
Was it James Ashley? Is it possible to book extra days for Toubkal? Yeah, no problem, James. Just drop me a message.
Yeah.
Let me know, when you want to arrive and when you want to leave, and anything you want to do in the middle. Let us know. We can usually sort you out like that. He's actually interested in doing Mera and Island.
Nice.
In a single one. So,
wow, awesome.
Awesome.
Big trip.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things we always say is like Andy just said, we don't like to say no to anything.
Yeah.
If there's an adventure that you want to do or something you want to see or experience when you're there, even if you don't see it on the website or you want a conversation about it, then drop us a message.
Yeah,
because we have such a good local team, the EverTrek team in the countries we work. We use them for a reason. So if you want to go to Chitwan, or you want to go to the Sahara, or you want to go to Serengeti, anything like that, you just let us know. We can work it out, man. There's no problem.
Yeah. Good question, guys. Good question. Okay. Well, look, I know we've been going for 40 minutes already. It always flies by.
Yeah.
Doesn't it? It's nice to be back. But I hope that it's been useful for everyone today. If we haven't answered your question, I think we've gone through most. But if we haven't, we'll certainly go back in and could he bring us forward his Toubkal to November this year? Look at Mick, he's in already. He's back from Triff. He wants to do.
Well, yeah, I suppose. I mean, we're potentially going in November anyway.
Yes.
So it's one of those things where we are monitoring the COVID situation. At the moment, we said we expect that Morocco is going to be a goer. The reason I'm talking like this is because nothing is certain in 2020.
It's always the same.
But Mick, drop me an email, mate, and we can talk about that.
Yeah, definitely, Mick. Why not? I say we're going there in November. We can't wait. Even if you want to jump on ours. But drop us a message, Mick, and we'll be able to work that out. I love Ali. Do you guys ever listen to Africa by Toto at the top of Kili? What? I love that one.
Well, I'm just trying to find who sang the Kilimanjaro
Was
song.
it Kilimanjaro?
No, there's a I'm standing on the summit of Kilimanjaro.
That is brilliant. That's the one we've heard.
That's the one we heard.
Okay, we got a couple more questions.
Johnny Clegg.
Whilst you're researching that,
yeah, Johnny Clegg. Listen to that. It's I'm standing on the top of Kilimanjaro.
That is a good song.
But generally, when you're in Tanzania, the one song you hear is Jambo Bwana. Yeah, which is Jambo Bwana.
Beautiful singing voice, Dave.
Yeah, that is all the Welsh can sing. Didn't you know that?
Cheers, Mick. Mick's on his way out. Will, I'll take on your question before we finish up. Would altitude affect someone who had a heart attack a few years ago, I presume? Not necessarily. I mean, one thing we do say, if you've ever had any issues previously, like heart conditions, any pre-existing stuff, it's good to talk to your GP first, just to get kind of a green light, really. The one thing I would say that sometimes it's also worth speaking maybe to a specialist, because most GPs are not, I'd say most, some aren't, I'd say, high altitude trained when it comes to medicine. So it might be worth speaking to someone like Nomad Health clinics, for example, where they do have specialists who operate at high altitude. from a doctor perspective, give you a bit more of a rounded yes or no, or maybe if you do this. We've had customers with lots of these sort of conditions, heart conditions, Ramona, it depends obviously on the severity. When you're up there, it is an oxygen deprived environment, so your body is put under stress, but it's certainly a no. The sort of effect it'd have on you, it might make you a bit more tired because of the lack of oxygen. I know we get a lot of asthmatics on the trek. I mean, I'm asthmatic myself. It's never really affected me because it's managed. But yeah, I'd say maybe just maybe speak to your GP just to get a bit of peace of mind, or speak to a specialist. And then if you want to come on a trip, Will, we'd love to make it happen for you. Like we said, we don't want to say no. We'd say, okay, let's chat about it and see what we can do.
Exactly. Yeah. If your cardiologist says it's safe, that's good enough for us, essentially. But we're getting a lot of questions about Tukal in November now. I should just say that trip is actually completely sold out.
Yes.
So I don't know if there will be any space to actually jump on in November or not. And I don't know whether it's going to be going ahead. So just to let everyone know.
I can see that. Yeah, sorry,
just because I feel like I misspoke earlier. I made you all believe that there was this amazing trip going ahead. It's actually completely sold out.
Yeah, there is a weekend that's still available.
Yeah, there is
for some.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of going to hopefully clarify, is that there are some other trips, I think.
Yeah, definitely. If you could book on that. Okay. Well, look, we'll Roger out as well, as Mick just put it. I love that. But yeah, it's great to be back. Dave, it's quite nice to actually do it side by side. We're going to do this again. Exactly. This is how it's going to be, Dave.
Yeah.
But no, it's been great. We will put this on, obviously, YouTube as soon as we can. I was away last week, so last week's hasn't, but we'll be putting it on there.
Altitude training last week, yeah.
It was a good one.
It was good.
It was good today as well. I hope that helps regarding weather, things like that. Different.
I mean, you were altitude training last week.
Well, it's about 2 meters above sea level.
2 meters above sea level, yeah. But no,
on the beach.
Yeah, on the beach, yeah. But you were about 30,000 feet
for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hike high, sleep low.
Yeah.
So I hiked, got on a plane, then slept low.
Yeah.
I saw you did that last week. Very good. No, it's great to be back, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Nice one, guys. All the best.
Awesome.
Yeah, we do that.